I tell you, no one's asked the female in
I
leadership
know.
question. I'm
Woohoo.
surprised, but I'm going to ask it
All
now because
right.
you said words that are very unusual for a female leader. Elbowed my way in because it's common. It's commonly seen. There's research that certainly shows many women are unwilling to apply for a job if they don't meet every criteria on the ad.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that didn't apply to you. So, what do you think is different, or how are you comfortable and confident feeling like I'm just going to go do this? What can you share with the women in the audience as advice or ways to feel confident they can do that too?
Well, I think I'd start a little bit with saying I don't actually. I mean, maybe elbowing my way in is not
Well, don't
woman
you don't
sort
have
of
to
thing
you
to
don't have to
say,
walk it back. That's
but
fantastic.
I think what I did is a very typical of female leadership
Okay.
because I wasn't concerned with the title. I wasn't concerned with the credit. I
Okay.
was seeing an opportunity and I was making it happen. And I personally have seen, so I don't really actually think, I mean, I think that there's lots of women who would make that opportunity.
Okay.
And it's not so much a gender based thing, it's more about, feeling like you have something to contribute and being okay with not having the title or the whatever, and just saying I'm going to do it. I have an opportunity to give back. So that's my personal little aside there. But I do think I'm thinking there's certainly an element of confidence that what is part of, that goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
That it's true. The research does show women, particularly where they're asked. I should say, I hate speaking in generalizations.
Of
but we're
course.
going to speak in stereotypes and generalizations here, so forgive
Well,
me.
we try and speak in research trends if we can, but
I don't have my data
yeah.
right off
So
the top of my head, so I'm going to speak in generalizations,
yep.
and folks can tell me I'm wrong. But I think I totally lost my train of thought now because I got distracted by stereotypes. Yeah. I think that the I will say myself personally, and I will as a woman, I have a hard time really tooting my own horn, talking a lot about my credentials, my all of those things, and I have a much more comfortable role in leadership of like lifting others up. And so I have noticed, I think about some of my contemporaries that when I was at the city who were men were much more comfortable being the front leader. And so I think that is an area that we need to challenge ourselves and sort of look at how we need to do self-promotion in addition to team promotion and other things like that maybe certainly don't come as naturally to me. And when I've seen other female leaders, doesn't always come so naturally.
All right.
But
yeah, it's tough because we can't always address specific situations here. For the community, of course, they know that's one of the reasons I'm happy that Kristen took me up on my offer of online coaching. I'll share. She's in her career in the healthcare industry in Ohio, but she volunteered along with one other person to be coached live on stream. So she actually discusses her career challenges and aspirations in front of the audience so that everyone can benefit.
that's courage.
It is
Good
courage.
job. Good
Yeah.
job.
So she'll be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pacific. So we have only a couple more questions in the Q&A extension, and we're winding down on time. So that means two things. Number one, if you have any questions you want us to answer, you're getting down to your last chance. Go enter them and vote, because otherwise we're going to go eat. Awesome Dave has been delivered his glass of wine, and that's making us want ours. Second, it means you're running out of time on the auction or to get in as a subscriber on the raffle. Dave, can you flip us over to that real quick? So we're raising money tonight as a part of my birthday celebration. Thank you all for the birthday wishes and all the people who've contributed. We're raising money for WTA. I'm auctioning off 4 hours of my time. The winning bids the last time I saw were a $500 bid that came in earlier today offline, and then 110, 110, and 100. I'd love to see someone come in I want to help everyone, but if you can afford to contribute more to this mission, I'm very appreciative. You will get my best efforts to send you down speedrunning your career in whatever direction you want. They're also transferable to others. So if you want me to instead coach your mother, brother, cousin, sister, best friend twice removed, or that anyone else, I will do my best to do that. And beyond that, we're also going to raffle off an hour of time to subscribers. I will note for fun, we now have subscriber loyalty badges. Hopefully the iconography that's all over the channel is clear. We picked a compass rose. And so as you go through time as a subscriber, you'll get all the points on the compass because my goal is to help you navigate your career. So how about that? Fits in with WTA as well. We have the 10 essentials, and one of those is never going to the backcountry without a map and a compass. So 2 of them, actually. Way to find your way out. All right, so with that said, we'll go to one of our last questions here. Are you open to doing an IRL like stream on one of your next hiking adventures? So IRL means in real life.
Oh, are you kidding? I have a 10-year-old.
All
How
right,
could I not
sorry.
know what IRL is? Yes.
Yes, Jill has a 10-year-old who watches YouTube but not Twitch, so I have to fix that over time. But she's probably protecting him from some of the audience. Not any of the audience of this channel. You folks are fantastic. But I would love to do that. I saw it discussed in chat by ShadowFox earlier. The problem is almost none of the places we hike have coverage. So even with like one of the Twitch backpacks, I don't think I could keep a stream live in most places. What I could do is a picture show sometime, a slideshow, and talk on the channel, and we just have a chill night where we go through great places I have hiked and pretty outdoors. Because that would be fun. So maybe we'll put that on the like casual calendar sometime as a hangout. And Dave, do you want to? We'll keep talking in the background because we're down to the last question. But do you want to flip to the wildlife outside the back door? So for those of you who didn't see this earlier, Dave has a little home movie of a webcam that's right outside Studio Dave's back door. And he's captured all this in the last 3 months. So bucks in the backyard, deer. This is 20 feet from here outside that wall. We love that one. That's his dog Chewy or Chewbacca. That's a black bear that came through the backyard. We're going to get a raccoon in a second after the moth. And I'll let that run. Jill and I have talked about trying to do, we talked about virtual reality, recording of a couple of our trails in VR. Mm-hmm. So you can flip it back to us now, Dave. So last question.
Can I say one more thing about
Please.
gender? Because I didn't like my answer.
All right.
All right, is that okay?
Yes. I'm sure the audience would appreciate that.
I'm sure. Well, I always struggle when people are like, what is it like being a woman leader? So I'm going to turn the table a little bit and well, one, what's it like being a male leader? I mean, how do you feel being asked that question? I think that's I mean, the truth, I was thinking about it right now, and the fact is sexism still reigns supreme in a lot of our work environments, and our culture is set up for white male dominant culture. And so what's interesting to me when I think that, you know, and a lot of all of us navigate that and really sort of have to think about how we show up professionally, how we work, what our relationships are within the context of the dominant culture. But I think what's interesting to me as observing from my perspective as a woman, for example, when I'm on radio shows, oftentimes the men are asked the questions first. They're asked more questions. There's a lot of mansplaining. There's a lot of making the point that I just made. And so those kinds of things, I think, definitely still exist. I'm sure everyone on here has experienced that in some way. And so, you know, a huge piece of being a female leader is having to constantly combat some of those sort of unintentional habits that show up in the workspace. And another question I get all the time. I'm fortunate that I've led two majority female leadership teams, both at the city and at WTA. And just last week, I got asked, when are you going to hire a man? And a lot of concern about the fact that there is a majority of female leadership. And we've got hundreds / millennia of male leadership. So I really think, it's interesting that for me, I think a lot about how we bring all of our talents and create a culture that allows you, regardless of gender, regardless of race, a lot of things to thrive and flourish and bring your best self. And so maybe as a female leader, I'm more attuned to that because I've had to face it in a lot of different ways. And that's hopefully what I bring as a female leader to WTA, is thinking, how can everyone contribute their best self, and how do we create a culture and an organization that allows that to flourish? So that's my 2 cents on female leadership.
Well, I want to take the question quite seriously. What's it like being a man as a leader? And so, Twitch chat, this is your chance. You can get ready to clip away because I'm going to wade into the deep end. Specific to gender, the challenge now being a male leader is, how do you do it well? There's, in the past, maybe I generalize, but I think about earlier in my career, it was a non-issue. Meaning not that we weren't doing damage or excluding or creating a male-dominant culture, but it was so dominant, you just did things however came to mind that got work done, and you didn't concern yourself. For better or for worse, there was the concern, there wasn't much awareness of, am I fostering the growth of my female or underrepresented minority or my diverse population of workers? There was, this is the way we need to do it, as I put on the prototypical masculine voice. And what's moved now is trying to learn a whole new set of skills that actually, certainly we were never taught. It's not like I had a college course of how to be an aware male leader. And in fact, I'll share with Twitch chat, Jill knows this, most of my exposure, my training in diversity, equity, and inclusion has come from the Washington Trails Association. I've actually been taking things that we did at WTA and introducing them to my team in Amazon. Not that Amazon doesn't care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's super hard to figure out how to teach that in a corporate environment. And so I'm importing things because WTA, this is a place where I said earlier, you can't act maybe as autocratically as a corporation, but corporations are paralyzed because they don't want to antagonize anyone. And they, turns out, bad news, if you go through an organization and talk about diversity and train on it, you get more HR complaints because you raise people's awareness that they're being mistreated, and then they go and file a grievance. And so there's this fear, oh my God, maybe if we just don't tell women they're being discriminated against or don't give them any hope, they won't say anything. Now, I'm way out on a limb saying that. That may be bad science, but there is definitely a pattern of, the more a company talks about supporting diversity, the more complaints about where it's not diverse arise. And I have to believe that's because suddenly people believe, they used to just think it was hopeless and they had to put up with it. And now they learn, like, oh, the company says it cares. Maybe I'll tell them how I've been mistreated. And that's super sad. But it's also real. So there's a long story here, but how to be a good male leader, really hard.
Well, I think how to be a leader is really
Sure.
hard. Let's, regardless. But I do think, it's interesting. We've run into similar issues with when you start to name something and say, we value being an inclusive organization. We value people feeling safe. We actually get a lot more feedback about where it's not. And I think a huge piece of me being a leader and all of us is seeing that as progress. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's actually gotten worse.
No,
it
no.
means that we're creating a culture and an organization where people speak up and feel like they can change. And create that culture where everyone can thrive. So we've tried to really work a lot at seeing those opportunities and that feedback as proof we're doing work well, that we're becoming actually a more inclusive organization where people feel able to let us know how we could be better and help them thrive better. But it's hard. I
like how you framed it, though. Thank you. I really just want to be a good leader, and I want the people who follow the Easy Coach to develop into good leaders. There's reality that we've talked about this much before. You lead different people different ways, and you need different styles of leadership for different groups. That's also going to include gender, race, background. All of those things can come into play. And so being a leader that can adapt to all those different styles and concerns is something you have to build. And then, just like there's always going to be different charitable interests, I think we're a long journey from a world where everyone is equally included. Like, that's a lifetime journey. So we have one more really long question here. I think we'll take that, but I'm going to wrap up the auction. This is your last chance, like going once, going twice. If you'd like an hour of my time, you either need to subscribe and enter the raffle, or you need to outbid the current leading bidders. And I would love for you to do that. I feel a little bit bad for whoever you outbid, but they have a chance to come back. So here we go. And then we're going to go have dinner and wine, which sounds good, right?
Sounds lovely.
Dinner and wine.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question is, do you believe serving on the board of a nonprofit organization can serve as a lead to being on the board of a private sector organization? Do the skills translate across businesses? So I guess this one's mainly for me, although I welcome your input. Somewhat. Boards, so I've been on nonprofit boards, specifically WTA. I've also been on advisory boards of several commercial corporations. I have never been on the board of directors of a public company. Many of the skills do translate. Specifically, the part that is the same, I like Nami, thank you for joining as a tier 1. Appreciate that. Welcome to the raffle. The skill that translates is our number one duty as board members is what's called fiduciary responsibility. And it essentially means we're responsible for making sure that the money of the organization is not embezzled and is deployed according to our mission and is not squandered. It's spent responsibly. And that very much is the duty of a public sector board as well. We're representing the organization and the donors. On a public sector board, the board is representing the shareholders and trying to make sure that the shareholder interests are taken care of and that the company is run responsibly. So in that sense, they're identical. It diverges from that point in that, particularly with smaller nonprofits, often the board are also the leading volunteers and or the leading fundraisers. The WTA has gotten to the stage where with 5,000 volunteers, how much time I spend on a shovel handle is not the main contribution I make to the organization. But that's not true with smaller boards of different or smaller organizations. Is there anything you'd add about the board or what you see in the board?
Yeah, I don't think that it's an obviously obvious jump.
I agree.
Because of the mission-driven and sort of
profit-driven.
There is the fiduciary responsibility, but I think another big piece of a nonprofit board is being the ambassador for the organization and the mission and sort of being out there and that is really about, your love for the mission and how you want to give back, and less about a skill set of like
That's right.
organizational governance.
That's right. So it's a good thing to do, but it's like if you really want to be on a
It's a very good thing.
if you want to be on a private sector board, if that's your actual goal, what you're going to need to do, frankly, is go be rich and powerful. Because they basically want big names that make it look like, look who we got on our board. And so you can go look at the board members of any big corporation, but they're generally retired leaders or active leaders of other big corporations. If you like the word oligarchy or Illuminati, you could decide whether or not there's a conspiracy or a secret governing cabal. And if you're not into, sort of conspiracy theory, then you can just realize that they want people with prestige and power. So nothing to see here. Move along. Quentin Tarantino got right on that. That's exactly right. So with that, I think we're done. I appreciate everyone who contributed, everyone who's been here. Tomorrow, we'll be back with Kristen at 8 p.m. Pacific. If you don't, our mods have popped up. Please join our YouTube channel. We grow through you recommending us to others, talking to your teams, your coworkers, your social media. You're always welcome on Discord. The link is there. You're always welcome on our Discord, where I try and drop in every day. I didn't make it today. It's been a long day, but I try and get in there, answer questions in general chat, take topic suggestions, etc. So with that, I'm going to thank Jill Simmons very much, CEO of WTA, for sharing her expertise on government and nonprofit leadership. And thank Awesome Dave and our two channel mods, 40 Pink Dragons and Shadow Fox. And if you won our charity auction, we'll be in touch over the next couple days. We'll show you how to complete your donation to WTA, and then I'll schedule a time with you. So reach out.
Thank you to the bidders.
Yep.
Big thank you.
All right.
Hope you enjoy being members of WTA.
Right. And make sure that you tell 40 Pink Dragons a contact method, either on Discord, email, something else. Gunesh, thank you for the birthday wishes. I was wondering how the Steelers won. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of football would be a whole other topic. And we won't go into that tonight. But it is true, if those of you who don't know my sports affiliation, I do bleed black and gold, mainly as a hockey player. Sometime we'll get some hockey photos on here. But with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful night. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Cheers.